So this is the your turn question that we were trying to answer last time, and these two wouldn't line up with the other two. That's where we stopped. That would. Okay, so this is the problem that we were working on at the end of the class last time. So here is age, R, and wage, and then we did this F string printing, and age and raise was not completely flush with the other two on the right side, and then we ran out of time, right? And the reason for that is that we have for wage and new wage, we have a space and then a dollar sign. So there are two the width of two characters, a blank and a dollar. Whereas here we just have a blank. Okay. That's the reason why it was not. So since we don't have a dollar sign there for okay, since we don't have a dollar sign for age and raise, we'll simply add a blank character. Okay, and then if we run, and you see that it is adjusted to the right side. Okay, so that was the reason why that didn't work. And now let's it's like your turn actually. It's question number 22. So we have two lists. Okay, both are. Well, I should have had like that. Okay. So two lists. Okay, one with name, and the second one with date of birth. Now we want to write a loop, and then we want to print the name and then the year in which the individual will turn 65. Okay, so that's what we want to do. Okay, so go ahead, and what we have to do here is, since we need to get data from two different lists, okay, we have to use enumerate. So you will get the index as well, which you can then use with the second list to get the information that we need corresponding with the first list. Okay, so we start with running these two lines of code. So we get the data, right? So make sure that you run this cell. So we'll have the data, and then we have to do an enumerate loop. So enumerate loop will be for, and then we have to give two values, one for index and the other for the actual data itself. Okay. So I comma v, okay, in enumerate. Okay, what do you want to enumerate on? So you can actually enumerate on either one of them. So we'll enumerate on name. Okay. All right. Now what we have to do is, okay, for each loop, the V is going to be the name, so that's good. Okay. And then the date of birth will be DOB, okay, and then you have to index with square brackets I. So I will go from 0, 1, okay. So DOB I will go first time that, and that. That's going to be a text string. Now we have to convert that text string into, and what function do we need to use? Now for that, we have to first go back and make sure that you run the library. So we did the library way back up here, and since we are starting fresh today, we have to go back up and find the date, or you could probably write another piece of code to get that. So we need to, that date time library needs to be imported. Okay. So then only you can use that date time library. And what do you need that date time library for? To convert the text string. The date is a text string, and that needs to be converted into a date data type. And then, and for that, we use str parse time, strp time function. So for that function to work, we have to make sure that that library is available. Okay. So go ahead and write the code that will take the DOB I and then convert it into a date, and of course you need to put that into a form, into a variable. So let's say VDT or something like that. Okay. So what is that VDT going to be? Okay. So go ahead and write the code. So you start with date time. So you start out with the initial few letters and then press the tab key, so you do get prompted for date time, and that's a confirmation to us that date time is available for us to access. All right? So date time, and then we use the function strp time. Okay, strp. Okay, and once again, I typed strp, and then I press the tab key, and auto fills the function, which is again a good sign that this function is available to us. Okay. Now, the first item is the string, and then the second item is the format, and the format must be within quotation marks. Okay. So DOB, okay, so I gives us the corresponding index number 0, 1, 2, 3. So if you do DOBI, okay, and to access a particular item of a list, we need to use the square bracket. So square bracket I, so that's going to give us the element from the list DOB, and that is going to be a string. Okay. So now you know what the string looks like. So we have the month, and then the day of the month, and then the 4-year digit, and 4-digit year, and then in between we have 2 slashes. So that's what we need to put here, and 2-digit month with no padding on the left side, so that would be, and we do percentage and then the code, right? So of course we are not going to be remembering the codes for all those different options, so you have to go back to the table, look for the code, and then use it. So what is the code for 2-digit month? Is lowercase m. Okay. And then after that we have a slash, so we need to have a slash right there, and then percentage 2-digit day of the month, and the code for that is lowercase d, absolutely. And then one more slash, and then since this is the 4-digit year, we have an uppercase y. Okay. Now that's going to give us the date. So just in case, before we need a couple of more lines of code, but if you want to test it out, make sure that this line of code works. Okay. Of course, you're not printing anything, so you're not going to print. As long as it doesn't generate an error, then we know that the code works, right? So if you run this, it runs. Okay. But we don't know whether it runs properly, but at least it runs. Okay. All right, so now we have the date in date format, each of these 3, and we want to figure out in which year each of these people will turn 65, right? So we have to take the year okay, so these are the date of birth, right? So this is the date on which they were born. So to get the year in which they will turn 65, what should we do to this date? Add 65. Add 65, and then we have to look at the year of that date, right? Okay. One way of doing that is, okay, so we take, see there is a year function. We'll do a print now to see whether it works, right? So we get 1995, 2001, and 2000. So that is going to give us the year part of the date of birth. Okay. Now if we add 65 to that, that's going to give us the year in which they turned 65. Okay. All right. So Now we want to print the name, the date of birth, and the year in which each individual will turn 65. So we need to put this year okay, so we say that in a variable and then do an F string printing. So print okay. So what's the first item that we want to print? First element is the name, and the name is in what variable? Okay, it's going to come from this enumerate, right? So what variable will have the name in each loop? The name of the variable is? Anybody? So I will have the index, and we will have what? We will have, so this is the name. Name is what we're going to iterate over. Okay. I gives you the index, so two variables. The first variable has the index, the second variable has the value from that list. So I will have the index, and we will have the actual name, right? So we put V there. Okay. Now since V is a text variable, it's going to be automatically left indented, so we don't have to, left aligned. So we can specify a width, say 10. Okay, so now if you run this code, I have a typo here. So that's going to print the name. So that's just the name it prints. And we want the full date of birth. And the date of birth is going to be, okay, what variable will have the date of birth from these lines of code? Which one? Be brave. Give me an answer. You don't know? Anybody? Where is the date of birth DOB is going to come from? We already have it in the code. I is the index. So I is going to go through the index one after the other. Okay. VDT. Okay. So we got the I in DOB, and then we used the parse time, and we converted from the second list the date string into the date. So that's going to give you the date of birth. Okay. Or you can just simply print the well, we don't have that. Well, we do. DOBI, that also would do it, but that would be a string. So we'll print the date. So that will be VDT. Well, we need to put that in curly braces, and you want to that is the format. Okay, so you can select the format. So we had the F string formats for dates. So you can select, so here, so this is the date time format codes for F string formatting. So now you can select the code that best suits you. If you want to print the day of the date of birth, you can use that one. Or if you want just the year or whatever else that you want, the week number of the year, then you put that. But we want that format. So percentage X, so percentage lowercase x will give you the date, okay, and then the year. So the last item is year. So year is going to come from which variable? Okay, so that's the date, and here is the year, VDTYR, right? So VDT and YR is uppercase, so case matters, okay, and then you can specify, say, 8. Now this is sometimes, you may have to determine what would work best by trial and error. Okay. Try, and then if you're satisfied, leave it like that. Okay. Now usually when you do this, you want to put a title or a header at the top to indicate what these numbers are. Okay, whenever you print a list, and it's a good practice to put. So before you start the for loop, because you don't want header in each row, you want the header just one time at the top. So you need to put the header before the loop. So print. Okay, now you're going to do an F string, and the name. Now you have to do this. Okay, so now it's not aligning properly, so you have to adjust either the width or the spaces, okay, to get this to. So this. Okay. Okay. All right. Everybody done it? Have any questions? Are you good? Yeah.
Where did you say you got the 8 from in the VDTYR, and then you did the 8 at the bottom? Where did you get the 8 from?
8 from?
Yeah.
The number 8?
Yeah.
Well, we want, that's the width, right? That's the width. What's going to be the width for printing the year? So I just thought, okay, we will try 8. And then, yeah, it's the width. So you do that by some trial and error, see what looks good.
Okay, so if I did 7, just make
So you can use 10 or you can use 6, and
it was like something with the numbers on there.
it has to be a number, yeah, because it represents the width. All right. Any other questions?